All right, so we're looking at a document today that is going to challenge a lot of conventional thinking about health.
It really is.
It's a visual guide. It's titled The Spiritual Link, How Your Mindset Affects Viral Immunity. And, well, it pretty much tosses out the standard advice about, vitamin C and hand washing.
It does. It goes in a much more metaphysical direction. This is not a medical textbook.
Not at all.
The source presents this really stark binary framework where your emotional state is the primary driver of whether or not you get sick from a virus.
Right. It's basically arguing that your mind is either a magnet for illness or, on the other hand, a shield against it.
That's the core concept, fear versus faith.
And what really caught my eye right away is how it defines fear.
Hmm?
In this framework, fear isn't just a passive emotion. It's not just a stress response.
It's described as an active force,
Yeah.
a force
Yeah.
of attraction.
Exactly. An attraction.
And that distinction is, it's vital to understanding their whole argument.
Mm-hmm.
The source uses this very specific magnet imagery.
Mm-hmm.
The claim is that there's a spiritual principle of attraction. So if you are, vibrating at the frequency of fear, constantly worrying about getting sick, you aren't just stressed.
You're doing something more.
You are, according to this, physically pulling the virus toward you.
That is a terrifying concept. It's basically saying that worrying about the bullet is what makes it hit you, and the diagram gets even more specific about how this happens.
Yeah, it introduces this concept of an entry point.
An entry point. Okay, what is that?
This is the mechanism the source proposes. It views fear as creating a breach in your, let's call it, your spiritual armor.
Okay.
So when you get in to that anxiety, you create an opening. And the text claims this opening allows negative spiritual forces to manifest as physical illness.
So the virus is almost secondary then. The real problem is that spiritual breach.
Exactly. The source explicitly says that people with a disposition of worry are spiritual targets.
Wow. So it suggests your personality. If you're just a naturally anxious person, that might be your biggest risk factor.
It completely reframes anxiety from a psychological struggle to a state of, structural vulnerability. You're leaving the door unlocked.
Fortunately, the chart doesn't just leave us in that scary place. The flip side of the visual is the solution.
Right, which it calls spiritual immunity.
And this is where the magnet becomes a shield.
It does. The source suggests that a faith-filled mindset generates a kind of protective aura. In the diagram, it literally looks like a barrier of light repelling the virus.
Yeah, I saw that. And it's interesting that it treats this immunity as something you have to actively build. It's not just your default state.
No, you have to work at it. It lists these actionable steps to strengthen what it calls your inner light.
Things like focusing on giving love, maintaining good intentions.
Being constructive.
Yeah.
And in this context, those aren't just, moral suggestions. They're presented as defensive tactics.
So outwardly focused, positive behavior reinforces your internal barrier.
That's the idea. And there's a biological claim in here, too.
Right. It's not just about feeling safe. It says strong faith actually helps the body expel harmful elements.
Mm-hmm. And that's the bridge between the spiritual and the physical in their theory. Believing in a higher purpose is supposed to trigger a real physiological response.
Like a boost to the immune system.
Exactly. A boost that actively pushes those negative forces out.
Yeah.
It's a holistic view where your spiritual light has tangible biological consequences.
So if we go along with this framework, health becomes a choice between two states of being.
It does.
You're either operating in fear, creating these entry points for illness, or you're operating in faith and you're building a shield with positive action.
Yeah. It certainly forces you to, audit your own internal monologue. It suggests our internal landscape dictates our external reality far more than we might think.
It really does. And it brings up a final lingering question for you to consider. If fear really can create a physical entry point for illness, like this source suggests, to what extent is your physical health just a reflection of your spiritual boundaries?
Something to think about.
Thanks for diving in with us.